parent of a typically developing child versus a child with mental health concerns, would it be very different? And yes, you do have more work to accomplish with a child with mental health. You have to have more training. You have to know how to meet their special needs. But the strategies ultimately will be the same. So we're not going to worry so much about the labels and the abilities. We're going to talk to you guys about what you can do to help co-parent in the healthiest way possible. Does that make sense to everybody? And yeah, I see, as long as Andrea keeps nodding her head, we're good to go. So here's the agenda tonight. We're going to talk about family transitions, which is a specific program under the Triple P umbrella, and we'll unpack a little bit more of that. We're going to do an opening poll. We'll talk about what a positive transition looks like and the 5 key principles. We'll talk about common parent traps that we've all fallen into, whether we're going through separation, divorce, or just regular parenting, managing conflict, and of course, we'll end the night with resources. We have an hour and a half, and of course, we're not going to provide all the answers to all the questions in an hour and a half, but we'll get you on the right track and we'll link you up with other resources that you may find helpful as we go.
Right. So it's a really great introduction to the topics and direction for you, for sure.
And of course, at any point in time, we encourage you to use the chat window to put in your questions. So even if we're not talking about that particular thing, put your questions in there. If it's relevant to what we're talking about at the moment, we'll bring it up. And if not, we'll address all the questions that are in the chat at the end. So just as you think of it, just type it in there. Don't worry, it'll be there, and we'll get to it. All right. Anything to add to the agenda, Andrea, that you wanted or that you were hoping to see?
No, I think that covers.
Okay, great. Okay, so Family Transitions by Triple P. This is a specific evidence-based program under the Triple P suite of programs. It's a 5-week program, and it can be free, or you might have to pay for it depending on where you live, because unfortunately, Triple P is not a provincially funded program at the moment. We do have committees and the Ontario network and the Canadian network of Triple P that are driving that and trying to make that happen. So depending on where you live, there certainly are free programs, or it may be fee-based. Family transitions can be delivered individually to you as an individual or in a group environment. Triple P family transitions would never be delivered to the 2 parents in the same group. Right? It's not a mediation. It's not a conflict resolution. It's specific, good, healthy strategies that you need to have to do the best for your children in these terrible times of divorce, separation. So more, go ahead, Linda. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, lots of times we have families where the wife and the husband will do it at separate times or at the same time with separate facilitators. And that works really well. It's good support for one another and for the children at the same time.
Absolutely. If you can get both to do it, that's the best situation. And I think, Linda, you've done them such that the one parent is in the afternoon session and then you do the evening session. That could even work. So yeah, Linda's very, very experienced in delivering this program. So there's our website. At any point in time, you jump on there. There's all kinds of information. If you use the contact page, the email will come directly to me so I can help put you in the right spot. So let's have a quick poll just to keep you guys vested and interested in this. So here comes the poll. It's two simple questions, 3 simple questions. And you can choose as many answers as you like. So here's the launch. And it says co-parenting a child with mental health illness. First question, please select an age range for your children. And you can pick, if you have 3 children, you can pick all the ranges. So I'll just give you guys a minute and a half to answer these 3 poll questions, please.
That's great. It gives us a good idea of where everybody's at, so we can direct our presentation a little more towards that.
Absolutely. Andrea, will the Facebook Live people be able to see the poll as well?
I will check. They likely will see the poll.
Okay, and hope they can participate. Otherwise,
Yeah, I'm not sure if they will be able to participate. There's a bit of a lag with Facebook. Let me just
with
see.
the live, okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've got one of you with the teenage or the preteen and teen years. It has been a few years, and some of the emotions: anger, hurt, stress, tired. I'll share the results in a minute. I'm just waiting to see. I'm not sure who has participated. Oh, there we go. So both of you have children in the preteen to teen, and it's been a few years. And the emotions. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. It looks like both have answered. Thank you both so much for doing that. So as I said, you both have the teen, teen year children. It's been a few years, and the emotions are anger, hurt, stress, tired. Everybody's tired.
Everyone's tired.
Yeah, and look at that, optimism. Yay. So the spectrum of the emotions go from anger to hurt to feeling very optimistic. That's great.
There is a rainbow at the end of it all, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So we're going to now jump to a video. And I'm going to do this. So we're going to watch a video of the 5 principles of a positive family transition. So just give me a moment to flip to there. And it's this one, right, Linda?
Yes. And so think of yourself when you view the video, if what you see on the screen is happening in your life.
Right. And yeah, don't worry necessarily about the acting. Think about the content, what's being said, and the advice that's coming.
There are 5 key principles to a positive family transition following divorce. Meeting the needs of your children. Developing an effective co-parenting relationship. Communicating appropriately. Setting up life as a single parent. And taking care of yourself as a parent. The first part of making a positive transition is making sure you do meet the needs of your children, even though you may be dealing with a lot of personal issues.
I found it really difficult to know what and when to tell the kids.
I was really struggling on everything, and I was really finding it terribly difficult to focus on the kids' needs.
Doing everything on my own, right, getting them up in the morning, getting them dressed, getting them ready for school.
I was caught up in a really bitter divorce, and I was really resentful about the things that he was doing.
I was just so angry and frustrated with my ex about everything.
Now I'm a single parent. I have to work really harder to support my children.
Whenever possible, children need to have an ongoing relationship with both parents that involves stability and routine. This ensures they grow up feeling they have 2 homes where they're loved and cared for, rather than feeling like they've come from a broken home.
Creating a stable home environment means a predictable and stable routine that involves both parents wherever possible.
Okay, sweetie, remember today's Tuesday? So at swimming lessons today, Dad's going to pick you up after school. Okay, so I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Thank you, sweetie.
It also means keeping your disagreements away from them and not forcing them to take sides.
Bye, sweetie. See you tomorrow.
Make sure they're not around when you're having a disagreement, especially if it's something to do with them.
But I'd planned for weeks on taking them on that fishing trip.
Bad luck. You'll have to change your plans. It's my turn to have them this weekend.
Oh, come on, be reasonable.
Children have to feel they can talk about an absent parent in front of the other parent.
Well, when I jump in, he catches me, then he throws me into the water.
Oh, Okay, it's good. That sounds like fun.
They also need to know they can be open about having reminders of their absent parent.
We never stop being parents, it's forever. While divorce signals the end of a romantic relationship, parents still need to develop and maintain an ongoing relationship as co-parents.
So, how's Bonnie getting on with the maths?
She actually failed a math test last week.
You know, she's got a lot of activities. Maybe she can consider winding back some of those other activities.
Children whose parents learn to co-parent effectively are more likely to have positive, ongoing relationships with both of their parents. As a result, they're less likely to develop behavioural, emotional, or academic problems, or indeed relationship problems as adults.
One thing I have learnt, and it's really helped me, is that it's not about me, it's about my son.
Just treating it like a business relationship, like I would in the work environment. Stick to the issues, keep all the emotion out of it.
It can be easy to be sidetracked on, you know, things that have been a cause of pain in the past.
A joint parenting plan will help reduce conflict around parenting issues. Children cope best when parents have similar expectations and household rules and openly share information about their children.
We did come to an agreement that what we both tried to do was provide consistent boundaries for the kids and keep them supported in that way.
It's important that parents don't undermine each other in front of the children, even when they disagree about parenting.
And I don't think that's fair of you, Mum. I really don't. And you know how much fun we have together, and now she's trying to get in between us.
Well, girls, we're having a family meeting today. It's not like a usual family meeting. Mummy and Daddy need to let you know that we've decided to get divorced.
Children need an age-appropriate explanation for the divorce that doesn't damage the relationship with either parent.
When we made the decision that we were going to separate, we did want to tell them together, so we all sat down together and we both explained to the children just simply why and you know, what was going to happen.
The girls wanted to know the practical things, like when they're going to see their dad, where they're going to stay when they're there.
Wherever possible, they should have an input into changes that are going to affect them.
We'll have some holidays.
While they need to feel involved, children should not be responsible for making decisions. That's the role of parents.
The transition from being part of a married couple to being a single parent can involve many changes in many different areas.
Your whole world kind of dissolves and all your expectations are changed, and where you thought you were headed in your life, you're not headed in that direction anymore.
When we split up, I moved to a separate suburb where I could actually afford a house.
There were so many practical things to think about, and I was just feeling so very fragile.
Well, the obvious big change after separation is having to live by yourself, running a household, and all the domestic duties that go with that.
I had to learn how to put up together a cupboard and use a screwdriver and a drill kit.
I did have to learn, you know, where things were in the car and, you know, how to talk to a mechanic.
Well, I've had to go back to work, which caused a huge change in our whole life.
The final aspect of a positive transition is taking care of yourself. Continuing to parent effectively while making the transition through divorce is much easier when you're taking care of your own needs.
One of the things I was fortunate to learn early on was the importance of looking after myself so that in turn I could look after the kids. I think it's very true that to be the best father you can be, you've got to be in good shape yourself, otherwise you won't succeed.
It really helped me set up a support network, like people from my work, for example, from my church. And then of course my family and friends have been a tremendous support to me during this really horrible time.
I try to create a good balance between work, parenting and doing some fun things like spending time with my friends.
Okay, there was a lot of content there.
Sure.
Yeah, and what I'll do now is I'll go back to the PowerPoint presentation because I think our next slide
Yes.
is really, we're going to just slow it down a little bit. That was a lot of content. Here are the 5 core principles that the video talked about. And we just want to really touch briefly with you about each of these. So Linda, in that first video, meeting the needs of the children, what are the things that stand out for you as the important pieces?
I think it's really important to understand that all the emotions, the anger, the frustration, the sadness that we're feeling, so are your children. Except for we as adults can maybe understand how to verbalize them or work with them, where sometimes our kids don't, and they'll act out verbally, physically, emotionally, withdraw, who knows, right? But to understand that you need to be there for your children, to provide the same home if possible, the same environment as before, not to move things too quickly, too much transition too quickly. They need to know that they're loved and cared for by both parents, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's important for parents to be on the same page if possible. The biggest environment is like a safe, predictable environment, so they know what's going to happen. Low conflict is really important. If we have differences with our exes, it's important that we take it separately away from the children, right? So,
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Remember that. Remember, it's the number one thing going through divorce is meeting the needs of your children.
And the reason that's so important to not get into the conflict in front of the children is because everything that you do and everything that you say and every piece of your being teaches your children how to be in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're fighting and arguing and raising voices with another adult, it doesn't even have to be a co-parent. It could be the guy on the road that cut you off, right? The road rage. If you engage in that when children are in the car, you're really teaching them. Everything that you do teaches children how to be in this world.
Right.
So you've got, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So in terms of, that, maybe in the chat, Ryan, we're just using the chat as we go. And the only part that you missed was really what the Family Transitions Program is about Triple P. And you and I have already spoken on the phone about that. And now we're getting into a little bit of the content. So in the chat, how are you guys doing in terms of meeting the needs of the children? Maybe on a scale of 1 to 5. 1, I don't think I'm doing really well at meeting the needs of my children, or 5, I'm doing pretty darn good considering. So just put a number in the chat if you can, just to kind of indicate where you think you are at the moment. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
4. Okay, good job, Ryan. Great. Holly, 4. Yeah. And if we're meeting the needs of children, then there'll be a lot less behavioral issues with the children, whether it's a child with a mental health concern or a typically developing child. And by the way, there's no such thing as a typically developing child, because every child is an individual and we are all very dynamic. So when I say that, I mean it in the best possible way. Forgot where I was going with that, but that's all right. So the second core principle is effective co-parenting relationships, which talks about building in some relationship boundaries. What is acceptable to you? What is acceptable to the partner? And it is like, it's a business-like thing where you sit down, limits, these are the boundaries, these are the rules, these are the guidelines of how we're going to raise these children together. Right.
Yeah, if you can remove the emotion for sure and treat it like a business, you'll be able to handle your differences and your conflicts much easier. And having a parenting plan in place makes all the difference. And basically a parenting plan is arranging holidays, who looks after them if they're sick, if you can't do it, extra family, just getting involved in taking care of the kids with doctors appointments, school appointments, and things like that. That takes time to get to the parenting plan, but it is helpful.
Absolutely. All the lawyers use a parenting plan, all the mediators use a parenting plan, and the Triple P Family Transitions uses a parenting plan as well. It's a template that we provide that says, okay, here's birthdays, Mother's Days, Father's Days, Christmas, Easter, who's doing what when, are we rotating years, all this. And there's so many interesting ways to co-parent effectively these days. I love this concept where it's possible, it's not always going to be possible, where the children stay in the one home and the parents come and go. So the children are always in the same home, and this week dad lives in the home, and then that dad goes away and the other dad lives in the home, or the mom or the other mom, or whatever the configuration is, right? So that the children have a lot more consistency. It's easier to manage. They feel that safety and that predictability, and it's just the parent. But then you have to have somewhere else to go. Sometimes the adults go back to their family home, to their parents' home, or maybe they've got another partner and they're living at the other partner's home. So there's lots of ways and we really believe that for every problem, there is a solution. You just have to be able to work at it and willing to negotiate.
For sure. And I think COVID has changed that a lot too, with people financially. Like you said, also sometimes one parent will live upstairs, one will live downstairs, or at least staying nearby so that the children are in the same neighborhood, the same school makes a difference, rather than having long distant relationships, 2 hours away to go visit their mother or their father. Yeah. Keep it simple at the beginning at least. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
With the third principle, communicating appropriately with the children, maybe we can, I don't know how comfortable you feel, but any of the attendees, if you feel comfortable to chime in about this, how did you manage that? How did it go? What would you have done differently, or what went really well? What did you see in the video that made sense to you? I'll give it just a second in case someone's brave enough to talk. Ryan, perfect, thanks.
I don't mind. Yeah, so I think my situation might have been a little more unique than, well, I guess everyone's is very unique. But my daughter was 2 months old when everything happened. So for her, this is all she knows, unfortunately. So, she's 3 now, and starting to have these emotions, these thoughts, and I can tell she's trying to figure these things out by some of the things that she's saying and asking. So for me, it's like one of the reasons I wanted to be here tonight is like it feels like it's right at that point where these conversations, she can start to understand some of what's happening. So I'm here more to learn than to, I guess, share my experience. But yeah, I can just see the developments in my daughter right now. She's about 3.5 years old, and just this past weekend, she asked me some interesting things, and I'm hearing her tell me things that her mother's saying, which are concerning, but it's ever evolving, right? So it's tough to manage, your own and somebody else's. You can only care and manage yourself, I guess. So that's kind of where I'm.
Ryan, you said something really important that I really liked. You said listening to her asking questions, talking about what her mom said, or asking you questions. And that's so important in communicating, whatever age level or whatever disability your child's at, is really listen to them. They have good questions, and understand how they're interpreting, just like you're saying, your daughter, how she's starting to grow and mature. And at that age, 3 or 4, they do start to question things, right? They notice things. So helping her understand it, age appropriate, because as she enters school, or if she's in daycare, of course, they start to talk more. They see other children. What does it mean that you're going to mom's this weekend or dad's, right?
For
but
sure.
she's sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it kind of normalizes it because she started right from the beginning doing this, right? That I'm with mom or I'm with dad, right? So now she's noticing that's not the norm, right?
Yeah, she's seeing, like, we watch cartoons and she sees a mommy and a daddy at the same house, and I can, like, sometimes I'll see, like, on Sunday night, I was just, we talk about our weekend, and she told me, you know, I'm excited to see mommy tomorrow, but I want to stay here too. And it's like, it broke my heart, honestly. And you hear that and you're just like, you know, it's, as parents, we have a responsibility to make that as easy as possible for her, but it's a challenge to explain it to a 3-year-old, and especially just when she's emotional, you're emotional. So anyway, it's an interesting time right now. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, like Linda said, it's one of the bullet points in this, in principle 3, really hearing their concerns and questions and knowing that you don't have to have the answers. Just listening and validating. Yeah, that would be kind of cool. You know, I bet you would really like for mommy and daddy to, you know, be in the same home at the same time. You know, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but validating and really hearing them is really important. Okay. So once we do the meeting the needs of the children, and we're hopefully getting on the same page in terms of a positive, healthy co-parenting relationship where there's some negotiation, where there's compromise, and where there's always this attitude of win-win, and we're communicating properly with the children. And the part of the video that I liked in there is, you know, getting some of their input around decisions as you move forward. Getting some, you know, not that they're going to make the decision, but when children feel heard and are asked for their views and are part of the decision-making process, then they can own and support the decision a lot better. So that's a really important key.
Very important.
Yeah. So then as we go through this, then you start to think about, you know, setting up life as a single person. And I remember when I was going through divorce, it was like, oh my God, I got to date again. And this was before COVID, but internet dating was a real thing. So it's like, oh, seriously? It's like, I thought I was done all that nonsense. And then here I go again. And so it's like, and then you also have all the legal processes that eat up all your time, the practical needs of the children, of the family, of the moving, of figuring out where you're going to live, financial issues. The one mom in the video said she had to go back to work, and that was a big disruption to the family life. And where are you going to get support? All of the friends that you have are in relationships. They're all married. I still remember to this day, my friend calling me up shortly after my husband and I decided to split. And she just, you know, called me up and said, hey, do you and your husband want to come over and play a game of cards? It's like, no, we're separated. And she didn't know what to say, and she hung up the phone. Because, you know, we were the couple, and everybody thought we were great together, and, you know, they always saw us together. And you know, I break this news to her over this phone call when it's like, I wasn't so wise in those days to blurt it out. I would have been better to say, hey, we can't right now, but let's go have a coffee, and I want to update you about my life. You know, to break it, because I stunned her and she didn't know what to say, and she just hung up the phone.
Yeah, some people have a difficult time accepting it. Maybe our parents, or, you know, our in-laws. And that's a challenge, because even as friends, I went through that, where they didn't want to invite me as a single person to a party with all couples, right? So there is a bit of a challenge. Some people were very comfortable with it. So it's not just, it's such a change we have to adapt to. And work each one at a time. Take it slowly and just go as you can, one at a time, right?
Yeah. So when you think of dividing assets, you're also dividing family and friends, like who's getting which friends. So it's a terrible process, but I love that someone in the earlier poll said that they felt optimism. Because when I did some research about the causes and the reason for divorce currently is, you know, financial issues is way up there, and the constant arguing and battling. So when the marriage breaks down and you can maintain a relationship, that arguing will subside, and both parties will be a lot happier and healthier in the process. So whoever said that, you know, one of the emotions that they were feeling was optimism, that's great, you know, and you'll get there if you're not there, and it just takes time. Then, so the last principle is taking care of yourself.
Yeah, that's a challenge one. For sure.
Absolutely. It should be number one, right, Linda?
I always say that it should be like number one, like in the airplane, when the oxygen masks fall, you don't give it to your children first, you give it to yourself. So taking care of you first will help you take care of your children, right? We need to take, manage our emotions, whether we get support, get friends, or, whatever is needed to help us get through things, and come to terms with things, come to terms with the loss or the change of things in our life. And so it's so important to create a new balance. I always look toward it as a change in my life. I was looking forward to finding the real me that I had before, when I was younger, before I had children, my goals, my dreams. And so I got to really reinvent myself again, found out what was important to me and work from there, right? Creating the balance for myself with a new life, but also a new life with my children, because they can still have one. You can remember your past life, with your kids and as a family. To remember those good memories, but to create new memories are really important, right? And so it's important for us and for our children to keep that balance, get good social support. That's really important, with family and friends. And sometimes groups like this, where other people are separated or divorced, it's a good way to connect, to listen to other people, how they handle the challenges and where they're going in life. Excuse me. So that's really great. Yeah. Many different things, but number one, take care of yourself, exercise, eat right, get the rest you need.
Yeah. So when you look at those 5 core principles, ask yourself, which one am I doing really well at? And which one do I want to focus on? Which one do I need more support and more help around? Right, so keep these fresh top of mind as things that you need to do, manage on a daily basis to make sure your health and your happiness and your children's health and happiness as well.
For sure.
Okay, so children's adjustment to divorce. We're gonna play a video here shortly. But when we think about the children's adjustment to divorce, we have to ask, what are you feeling? Because your children are probably feeling that as well. What are your children feeling and seeing? And that's why we did the poll at the beginning, because, and the answers to the poll about what you're feeling hurt. There's probably also a lack of trust. So when I watched the video of the mom telling the daughter that, remember, today's Tuesday and dad's going to pick you up for swimming, right? There has to be a trust that that's really going to happen, because otherwise you're going to be worried. Is he going to remember that he has to pick her up from school and take her to swimming? When Linda has a part, I think, that you're going to do about being on autopilot. So when we're going through these traumatic, difficult times, we go on autopilot and we don't even know, what we're doing. And someone said, you make your cup of coffee and you're drinking it, but you're just not in the moment. You're not there. And then all of a sudden the cup of coffee's gone. Or you start your journey to work and it takes an hour to get to work, and you get to work and you don't remember any of the journey. We just go through this phase where we're just not right. So whatever you're feeling, it's about figuring out how to cope with those emotions and those feelings in positive, supportive, healthy ways. What are the children feeling and seeing? How much and what type of conflict have they experienced? What is the ongoing relationship with the co-parent? So this is what the video is going to unpack. Linda, any other thoughts on that one before I go to the video?
No, I think that was great, just to be aware of it and to be more present. Sometimes even now, you may be hearing us talking and watching the video, but are you present? Or are you thinking about all the challenges, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's hard for sure.
Yeah. So I think, Linda, is this the one where we're going to stop it after each section?
Yes, this is the one.
Okay. So I'm going to make it big. And you are seeing the screen, right? With the video, the screen's black at the moment. Okay, here comes the video. So there's 3 components, and we'll stop and have a quick chat after each component.
In this section, we look at some of the things that influence the way children adjust to divorce. Why do some children remain relatively unscathed and go on to have successful relationships, while others develop behavioural and emotional problems, academic difficulties, and higher rates of relationship conflict as adults? To understand the impact of divorce on children, we need to consider 3 areas: ongoing relationships, conflict, and parenting.
One of the things that could impact on your children are your feelings about your ex-partner. These feelings can stop your child having an ongoing positive relationship with their other parent.
Is that it? It's just so typical. She never puts enough clothes in here. Did she bring anything else?
These include making derogatory or negative comments about your co-parent, their new partner, or things they do.
Look, I know I shouldn't have done it, but I had to get every single reminder of him out of my life completely.
Removing everything that relates to your co-parent from the home removes the other parent, not just from your own life, but from your child's life as well.
Why have you got a phone? I can't believe you've got a phone. You're 9 years.
So the first 2 are, the put downs, and removing reminders of the other co-parent. So these are all things that we do kind of to protect ourselves, but they're not the best choices. What I love about Triple P is we're never ever going to tell you how to do this, but we're going to bring to you some topics that you have to consider. Is it a helpful strategy or is it hurting the child or the other person? So the put downs, when you criticize or put down the other parent in front of the children, all it's doing is questioning whether they should be loyal to you or to them, or questioning, the love. And it's not really about right or wrong. The children need to have a relationship with both parents.
Yeah, you don't want the children to feel that they have to take sides. That's the hard part. Which parent is better, which is more stable, which one doesn't complain as much. It's just being aware of how we speak to our children.
Absolutely. I'm going to keep going.
Years old. Why did she give you a phone? You don't need a phone.
It could also be criticising your co-parent's parenting, including what your child does when they're with the other parent.
Am I gonna get wheels?
Well, I wish you could, but your dad's not sending us enough money.
You might be blaming your co-parent for problems in your own life. Censoring what your child says can make them feel as though they have to be your ally against the other parent.
I didn't want to tell Dad about Mum. It'd make him a bit angry.
If your child feels it will upset you if they talk about the other parent, they will learn to censor what they say.
Their loyalties are very much divided. They're very conscious and pressured into being careful about what they say and do so that they don't upset one or the other parents.
This takes away their spontaneity and their sense of having 2 parents who love them and support them.
I will not send Georgia over there if that woman's going to be there.
Sometimes, parents can unwittingly use their child as a pawn in their war against their co-parent.
Parents' feelings towards each other should not impact on a child's ability to have a relationship with both parents.
Another negative impact can come from forcing your child to take sides in arguments.
You agree with me, Elizabeth? You're on my team, aren't you? You agree?
And there's quizzing, such as asking for excessively detailed information about what your child did with the other parent.
Who's she seeing now?
I don't know.
And so what happens? You go to school and after school you go after school care?
Go before and after school care.
So she doesn't come and get you and take you home?
We're going to stop there, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So do you have that PowerPoint to bring up with the tips on?
I can, absolutely.
I really like the last little one about, questioning, the child, right? About what is one goal, what did you do? that's the wrong thing, because it can lead to a lot of challenges afterwards. When your child, most parents find when they do the changeover, there's a bit of an attitude. The children are sad that they left the mother and sorry, and that they're going to dad. They're happy to see dad, but there's usually one day of a little bit of attitude or sadness or problem behavior, because it's hard for them to do that flipping back and forth, right? So one of the best ways is to allow the child to talk about their weekend. Don't, prompt them, quiz them. How did they do? Where did you go? Just let them tell you. And the more you allow them to talk, the more supportive they will be, the more they'll express to you whether they had a good time or not a good time. And that's when you can check in how things are going. Because lots of times there is a concern. Maybe the other parent isn't providing all the necessary needs of the child. And so then we may worry, are they feeding them right? Are they getting their homework done? Are they getting to bed on time? So we tend to blame the other parent. Oh, you're so tired. You never get your homework done when you go to dad's. You have to be cautious. It's hard. It's like just being more present and listening to your child again, and look at how you interact with them, right? When they come back from the other parents, be happy, right? Oh, isn't that great? You had a good time. Maybe ask what they did. If they tell you, great. If they didn't, but get the conversation going so that you're allowing them to talk about the other parent. And don't remove. I know one parent, she said, I'm so angry at my husband. I removed everything, all the pictures, his clothes and everything. I tore them up. But that's a lot of sadness for the kids. It's really great if they can bring a picture of one of the parents with them when they travel, right? Because they still have two parents, right? And they will always have two parents.
And it would be scary for the children to see that as well.
For sure.
Like we're on a rampage, we're out of control, we're not managing our emotions. And when children see and feel that tension, it creates fear. And when a young brain is acting on fear all the time, it doesn't do well for all their mental health issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when they can act out more. But the anxiety just seems to, get higher. The depression, they'll withdraw, they'll not talk to you. So being aware if they do have some existing conditions, are they getting worse? How are they handling it?
Absolutely. Thoughts, questions? Remember, use the chat, or if you want to unmute and have a chat or question anything at any point in time, just let us know. Stick up a physical hand or a virtual hand, or put your questions, thoughts in the, otherwise we'll keep going. We're doing well for time, I think. Yeah, we've got till 8:30, so we've got another 40 minutes, so we've got a bit more to get through. Okay, so those are all really good parenting traps to be very aware of and try to stay out of. Not easy, but is possible. Okay, back to the video. And this one is on the conflict.
You had it last year, it's my turn this year.
So you have no compromise?
It's Christmas.
So Christmas is not about compromise?
Well, Christmas is about turns. You had it last year.
I'm always willing to compromise.
You can have it next year. Your parents can come next year.
The second possible influence on your child's adjustment through divorce is the amount of parental conflict they have to witness and emotional messages you might give them.
Well, if you don't see sense in this, I think we're going to have to take it back to court.
And what makes you think you'd win?
Conflict between parents includes threatening legal proceedings to get what you want, attempting to get back at the other parent by unfair demands, and not being able to negotiate over parenting issues.
You'll be talking to a judge, okay?
All I can do is think about my ex, his new girlfriend, and my little daughter setting up home together, being all happy while I'm here all by myself. I found myself actually telling her that I was going to be sad while she was out having a good time with her dad.
Sometimes you may feel threatened or jealous about your ex-partner's new life. You could be afraid that your ex-partner, or worse, their new partner, may steal the affections of your child away from you. If you have these feelings, you may accidentally draw your child into your own insecurities.
Okay, gonna go back to the PowerPoint here just to have a quick chat about that one.
The conflict, major.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
think you could hear in that woman's voice when she was talking, the anger that she has, the resentment from past issues. So she's not really present. She's still dealing with that. And we have the anger there and the frustration. The hard part is not transferring it to our children, right? But if they do have some, listen to it, right? And help them work through some of that emotion. Lots of people put children in play groups. They have Rainbows is a good one for children going through separation and divorce, because they have their own conflicts that to talk about, right? And other feelings, right? And helping them cope with it. It's difficult. The conflict is the main thing. We have a lot, and the conflict is the part of the legal process, you know, the splitting up of all the assets, of looking after the child. Some parents totally don't, just withdraw. So one parent's left with all the work. That can be very difficult and hard to negotiate over. Well, I take them every time I need a break. Or some people are so worried that they don't see enough of their child, so they're very lonely. For myself, I found it, I was happy when my children went to see their dad, because for me, it was a catch-up time, right? I could find who I was, what I needed to get done. And actually, my kids said they liked it because I was a better parent. They would spend time with me, quality time with their dad. And so they actually got to know us a little better than as if we were a couple, because we were all both too busy working, cleaning. You know, we didn't always have time for the kids. All of a sudden, you have more time if you make it to spend time with your kids, quality time, right? To do fun things, because children will remember the fun things you do together with them. You can make homework fun, you can make cleaning the house fun, but you need that regularity so that you don't have the conflict of one parent feeling they do all the work. What do you think, Julie?
Yeah, I really like what you're saying, Linda, for sure. And this the emotional message, asking children to relay messages and information, it's called parallel parenting, where the parents don't talk, they just send messages through the children. And that's not the function of a child. It's not their role to mediate between mom and dad. It's absolutely not. Yeah. And because if you do that, well, you're going to see in the video later on possibly about how the children, when they get a little bit older, will manipulate. Oh, I didn't get any pocket money from dad. Mom, can I have some? Or mom, I'm going to go over and stay at dad's this weekend. Meanwhile, they're at their boyfriend's house. Right. So
yes.
Yeah, it's really, for them young, when they're young, Ryan, for you, when they're young, it's really important to get this sorted out. And for the other ladies with the preteen and teen, really important that you both know what's going on. And I know it can be difficult to get on the same page with a co-parent that might not be willing to attend a session like this, or attend family transition, or just attend an evidence-based parenting program. So it does become difficult for sure when you can't get that other person on board. But the bottom line is, because one of the questions that Andrea brought up for us to answer was, how do you support a child adapting to two different home environments where there's two different types of parenting styles and parenting strategies? So for example, one home where the homework is important and the other is not. So the answer is that children are very resilient, and they do acclimate to their different environments. So they'll get used to knowing that at mom's it's this way, at dad's it's this way. And the ultimate thing is for them to self-regulate. It's not about whether mom or dad makes them do homework. It's about inspiring the child so that they want to do homework because it's the right thing for them. Self-regulation is the ability to do what is right for them in the moment, regardless of where I am and who's putting what demands on me, you know, that type of thing. So,
Julie, that's so true what you said, because you'll find as the children age and get into their teens, they will see a different view of each parent. the one parent, how they handle their household, the stability and things, and maybe the other parent, like you hate to be called it, the fun parent and the work parent, right? But they will see the differences. And it's good for them to see that, because it helps them to choose what type of life they would prefer, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean they're going to not be with another parent, but it's good for them to see the differences, how they both handle things, and understand that, yes, when you're at dad's, it's dad's household and rules, and mom's, it's going to be different. It's her household and rules, but it's still all good, right?
Yeah. So it's important, you as a parent, to figure out what your household rules are and to help make those expectations clear and to help the children to follow those rules. And when we talk about rules and some of these other strategies, you'll find them in our other Triple P programs. So, you know, Linda and I will always advocate for parents everywhere to take an evidence-based parenting program, because we don't know what we don't know. And you've been learning how to parent totally through trial and error. And when a divorce or a separation happens, things go sideways. And, you know, a parenting program can really get you back on the right track.
Great.
Comments, questions, keep them. If you've got anything, put them in the chat. Otherwise, we're going to keep going on. Let's go to the next slide, Linda. I think we've got one more here. Yeah, so parenting while you're dealing with your own emotions. So sometimes we can feel so bad about the breakup and we feel responsible that we parent out of guilt. So we let the rules slide. We end up buying them phones or big gestures or doing over the top things that we wouldn't have normally done. So when you're raising a child, you always want to mimic real life as much as possible, right? You don't want to go over the top with big gifts or gestures. You don't want to parent out of guilt, because you'll end up doing things that will probably backfire on you. One of the other things is, you know, housing has gone through the roof. And if you're divorcing now and you're looking for a house, you know, it's not going to be easy if you're looking to rent somewhere else, but it's really important, regardless of what's going on, that you have a room for your child, that they're not sleeping on a couch or on a cot or a pull-out bed when they're over. They need to have that sense of belonging, that you want them and that they belong with you and that they're there as part of your family. We talked about how you could possibly, out of guilt, relax the parenting limits and boundaries. Oh, I can't do that. They're from a broken home. No matter what, children need rules and guidelines and boundaries and limits. We do better as a society because of the rules and limits that we have. Just think about driving a car where there was no rules of the roads or limits. If there was no stop signs, if there was no speed limits, you know, would you feel safe and comfortable getting in your car every day to drive if those things weren't in place? And if you can get children to abide by, children, teens, preteens, to abide by some simple family rules at home, then they'll just be that much more of a law-abiding citizen as they grow, because they understand it's for their own protection and their own safety. Right?
For sure. Good.
Yeah. And being emotionally unreliable or unavailable when we're suffering depression or stress and anxiety ourselves, it's really hard to be there for a child.
Yeah,
So
I know one parent said that when my children would go to the other parents, he was very unavailable, emotionally depressed, lock himself in his room for hours. And then I'd say to the children, if your dad's not available, you need to call, right? And I can come and get you, allowing children to know if they feel unsafe or unwell at the other parent's house, it's okay to call and to come home to your other household. So that's very important.
Yeah. And at the same time, be aware of an accidental reward, that they could manipulate that situation as well. So yes, you need to be able to do that, but you also need to be able to know when they're manipulating you, because they don't really want to be where they are and they want you to constantly rescue them. Children have got to figure out how to function in this new world, in this new divorce separation world, just like you are. You're navigating it together. Absolutely. Okay, I think there's one more slide here. So some of the strategies for managing conflict are, really considering assertive communication. So if you think of the passive aggressive scale, so passive is you're a doormat and you let people walk all over you. Aggressive is you're a bully and you demand what you want and you get what you want through any means possible. And in the middle of that spectrum is being assertive. And assertive means that we can communicate appropriately our needs and our desires, and we can negotiate appropriately with the other partner so that it's win-win for everybody. The mom wins, the dad wins, the two parents win, the children win. It's really a process of collaboratively problem solving. It's something that Triple P teaches. There's another Dr. David Green. He also talks about collaborative problem solving.
That's very important. And getting the kids involved too with that, because we want to hear their opinions of how things are going, how to problem solve, setting goals and teaching them the same idea, the same set of rules that help in problem solving and moving forward. And considering, like we said, all options. We need to be fair and we need to work out a good agreement.
And sorry, it's Dr. Ross Green. If you're going to Google, look at Dr. Ross Green, collaborative problem solving. He spins it more around collaboratively problem solving with children and teens, youth and teens, but you can do the same process with adults as well. So when you're thinking about problem solving, you really have to first just define the issue. What's the issue? What's our goal? And let's put on all the options on the table. Okay, and it can be for anything. I'll give you a quick example. So we have some guests coming and we've divided our house and we live in a bachelor and the rest of the house is rented, but we have cousins coming from England for a visit and they want to stay with us. So it's like, and we want them to stay with us, but we don't have the space. So my partner and I sat down, okay, so what the issue is, we don't have space. The goal is to spend time with the cousins and to provide accommodation for them. So then we came up with all the options and without judgment, without saying anything, we just, well, we could ask Maria for them to stay there. We could ask Wendy. We could rent a hotel. We could camp in the yard and let the cousins have the house. We came up with all these 10 ideas. And then we went back through these ideas again. And we said, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how good is this idea? And it was so amazing because we were getting quite aggressive with each other. And it's like, okay, let's stop. Let's define the issue, set the goal, and let's put all the options on a piece of paper and let's figure this out. And we did. And what made most sense to us is there's a hotel up the road. We don't expect them to stay to pay because they're coming to visit us. And we said, oh yeah, come and stay with us, whatever. So we're paying for the hotel. It's like, yeah, it's going to cost us a little bit of money, but it's win-win-win for everybody. It's win for the cousins because they're up the road. It's win for us because we get to spend some time with them. It's all win-win. And fairness. It's hard to be fair when our emotions are heightened. And that's where really sitting down with either a mediator or a lawyer, or if you can do it on your own independently, it's really coming up with a good parenting plan with keeping the child as the focus.
Yeah. Sometimes that's difficult when parents don't speak. This is the ideal way, and to understand this is the goal we want to get to. Lots of times parents only connect through email or through lawyers, or whatever, but just to always try to problem solve. It's cheaper if you can do it yourself rather than heading to court or to trial, the worst place you can be.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So those are some very positive strategies for conflict management. And if you need support, find someone that knows about these things and help you to role play these things. And even present these options to your co-parent. They might be on board, right? when Linda and I decided we're not going to get into that one. So we're going to just go into key messages here. And I do see a chat in here. Let me just see what the chat says. We have a family meeting every Friday that they transition back to our house. So to get on the same page and talk about the week ahead, especially as they get older, we found it super beneficial. We end up just sitting around talking much longer, and with a very blended family with 6 kids, we really value the day we all come back together. That's amazing. Under the Triple P umbrella, one of the 17 core strategies is having a family meeting. And the gentleman in the video that you see is Dr. Matt Sanders, and he's the founder of Triple P. He's been involved since the inception. I think he did the Triple P program as part of his thesis when he was doing his master's. And he still, to this day, he has 3 children, and still to this day, he has a family meeting every Sunday, regardless of where his adult children are. I think his children are in their 40s now. So regardless of where they are in the world, they always come together as a family on Sundays.
Yeah, I think it's so great because my family, my parents did that with us. We always had to come for dinner on Sunday. And that was very important. We would discuss what was happening. When I got divorced, we didn't do that. However, I still continued it with my kids to get together, to talk about holidays coming up, or what color you want to paint your bedroom, or challenges at school, or, you know, what do you want to talk about? But bringing it to the family meeting where it needs to be a positive environment. Now, some of the teens don't want to do this. So I always used a little bribe when they were teenagers. You can order pizza or Chinese food or something after the meeting, and never a long meeting, like 15 minutes, half an hour tops, and they can bring anything to the table. And it's a great way to hear about, as teenagers, their lives, right? Boyfriends, girlfriends, what's happening, jobs. When they're younger, it's smaller problems. You know, what's happening at school, their best friend doesn't like them anymore, or, you know, I'm not allowed to do this at dad's house, whatever, without judgment. Again, just listening to their concerns. But the best part is if you have a treat like food or dessert or a game afterwards or ride a bike, you're going to get them more involved. And that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Board games after a family meeting, or even the low cost, no cost minute to win it games. Fabulous, gets everybody laughing and everybody together. We actually do a 1-hour presentation on all the ins and outs of a family meeting. My favorite part of a family meeting is when the children come to you to say, can I get a cat? It's like, oh, that's a good idea. Well, I think it's a family decision. Go to the fridge and put it on the family agenda meeting list. So it's a great way to, to hold off on those big discussions so that you don't have to you don't have to go, no, we're not getting a cat. Are you crazy? I'm going to be the one that feeds it. I'm going to be the one that looks after it. The answer is no, right? So it really helps us to be able to listen and hear and validate and know that what they're saying and what they're asking for is important.
Very good.
Awesome. So the key messages for this whole thing in terms of what we've covered tonight is really, taking care of yourself, number one, developing this new routine as a single person, doing the exercise that you like and enjoy to stay fit and healthy, eating healthy meals, limiting alcoholic medications and substances. And unfortunately, it does happen as we go through these traumatic, difficult times. We need to have really good coping skills, and coping skills don't include, alcohol, substances, medications, things like that. It's way better to do the positive, healthy things such as exercise and eating right and sleeping right and budgeting and laughing and having social support and doing those creative and pleasurable activities.
With your kids, with the kids. Family.
Absolutely. During the beginning of the pandemic, when I was so used to going into the office and working and we weren't allowed to go, it's like I had so much time on my hands, I didn't know what to do. And I started painting, right? So it's like all the things that you wish you had time to do, you might have time to do now. And you need to take the time to do those things.
Yeah, like I said before, it's so important, that part of finding who you are again as a single person. What do you want your new life to look like? And where are you heading, right? Sometimes we give up so much of ourselves. We get so busy and caught up when the children are little. We're planning things. We're working hard to get a house or what it is, or start a business. So this is the time to sit back and just reevaluate, right? And it can be really great moving in a different direction, and your children too. Getting them involved of what do you want your life to look like? This new family, right? You still have your family, but it's just different.
Looks different. Yeah. So the principles of positive transition are meeting the needs of the children, an effective co-parenting relationship. Takes time to manage that. Communicating appropriately with the children about all things related to the divorce, setting up a new life as a single person, and taking care of yourself. So when we think about, co-parenting skills and habits, are they any different with a child with a mental health concern? No, you've got to, these are the same things. And I don't know that we necessarily asked if you have, if your children, if you have some concerns at the moment. There is another program under the Triple P umbrella called Fear Less. Fear Less is a program that was developed because of the prevalence of anxiety with children these days. So Fear Less is a parenting program specifically for parents that suspect their child is exhibiting signs or symptoms of anxiety. Teens, young, we could do anywhere from, there's a test going on right now for the program to be able to work with children from 3 years old to 17 years of age. So
very good program.
Yeah, it's really good. It's 6 weeks, right, Linda?
Yes.
6-week program.
And it's not just anxiety. Sometimes it pulls in depression. Is it because of their ADHD, and so many things that it's just a great program that really does address each one of these things, right? And understanding if my child does have any of these conditions, that yes, we will parent a little different, but like you said, Julie, at the beginning, basically the rules are the same, right? They may just be a little longer, a little slower, a little more involved.
Yeah. And Lisa says it's even more important when there are these issues. It's definitely more important to manage conflict and to get on the same page with the specific strategies. Absolutely. All children need consistency, predictability. Children with mental health concerns even more so. So in terms of resources, so there's the Triple P website again. So there's the Family Transitions Program, which is specific for parents going through separation, divorce. There's the Fear Less program. There are all kinds of free virtual sessions, and there are private practitioners that charge a fee to be able to do it discreetly, one-on-one with you. And there's online programs as well. The main Triple P programs are available online, as well as the Fearless program to work through at your own pace as you go. Of course, there's the CMHO website. They have the Family Care Center page, which is very good to support all of this stuff that we're talking about. And there is another, the Family Transitions program under the Triple P umbrella is not currently available online, but there is a online separation divorce program, and I've put the link there. So I think we're going to be able to share these slides. Andrea, are we going to be able to share the slides with the folks that attended here?
Yes, yeah, I can definitely send them through.
Perfect. And what we did is when we looked at the Family Transitions program under the Triple P umbrella and the other online program, really it's the same content. It's delivered in a different way, but it's the same content. There's no contradictory things. It doesn't mean that Triple P says do this and this other program says this. We're on the same page in terms of providers providing service to folks that are having this difficult time. There's also the Association of Family and Coalition Courts. There's the eMental Health, Ontario, supporting your children with separation and divorce tips for parents. It's a pretty great website as well. And then there's some really cool books. So books for parents are Mom's House, Dad's House, Making Two Homes for Your Child. and there's the co-parenting toolkit. Books for children are always very helpful as well, to help them to understand what happens next.
A lot of these books are free too. If you go to the courthouse, you know, in your area or the law offices.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's the end of our blah blah blah. How are you guys doing? Was Andrea, do you want to chime in for a minute? Questions and answers. Anybody can ask a question, or we do have. Let me just see how much time. We do have about 13 minutes left, and I do have, Andrea, the questions that you sent to us that we could unpack as well.
Yeah, no, I think this information was really, really fantastic. Thank you so much. Yeah, I think we can give a minute or so for somebody to ask a question, and then possibly unpacking those questions that were provided by they're provided by our chapter leaders that came from the families who are going through separation and divorce. So they would still be applicable.
Great. Okay. Well, while I'm waiting for people to come up with their questions, I will go through this. So the first question was about, you know, parenting in those two different home environments, when one parent's doing this and one parent's doing that. And we really talked a lot about that already. So I like this next one. It says how to work with a co-parent who doesn't believe there's a mental health issue, but it's rather just willful misbehavior, right? So the answer comes in the form of, you know, deciphering whether it is a mental health concern or whether it's a behavioral issue is difficult. That is a challenge for sure. So when a child shows regression in behaviors or inappropriate behaviors, and when they're accidentally rewarded, they become behaviors that will continue. So parenting absolutely plays into the behaviors and the mental health of a child, absolutely. So signs of anxiety can be a result of an unpredictable environment where there's different consequences for the same behaviors on the same day. So if you're not a consistent parent and the child is living in this unpredictable environment, it can create all kinds of issues for them in their little minds. So it may be best to have a doctor or a health practitioner weigh in on the situation, and or have some testing done if you're really not sure which is which, whether it's a behavioral concern or a mental health issue. And check to see. Go ahead.
The school, I was going to say, with the teachers, they see the children all day, so they may notice some type of a delay or something that's affecting their learning ability at school. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if the behaviors are only at home and they're not at school, then it's a learned behavior, because we don't have those rules and those limits and those guidelines and those boundaries. Yeah. So then how do you support a child in a high conflict divorce where parents aren't communicating and don't co-parent? So we talked about that parallel parenting. It's not an easy question to answer. You have no control over what the other parent does or says. It's only your hope that you'll get on the same page at some point. But taking a parenting course about parenting after divorce can be very helpful to understand and practice skills. Because even if the other parent is still angry and aggressive and all that, the calmer that you can stay and the more reasonable that you can stay, they will come around. Have you ever tried to yell or scream at someone that's speaking to you very calmly? It's pretty impossible to do, right? So it takes two to tango. If there's yelling and screaming matches, somebody's got to stop. And guess what? You guys are the ones that are here. So you're the ones that have to stop and make that first step for a better way forward.
And if you have a very aggressive co-parent who's guilting you out or whatever, it's important for you to stand up for your rights also, and to say, this conversation isn't going anywhere. Don't speak to me like that. If you have something to say, please say it in a positive way, or we can call back later, talk in an hour or tomorrow. But to be a little assertive, not aggressive like they're being, just to get your needs met, because your children again will see how you handle the situations. It helps them to handle it whichever household they're at or whatever they're facing at school.
Absolutely. It sounds as simple as asking for what you want, but we don't always know how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's about our communication style and being very clear and asking politely, calmly, for our needs to be considered and met. Yeah. How do you engage a co-parent that may not be a primary parent, but should be aware of what's going on? So I'm thinking that, I put that we needed more clarification around this question, but it sounds like it's a single parent with the children and the other parent is not there, not involved at all, but you want to keep them informed. So what we thought is, communication can still happen. Hopefully you have a cell number that you can text them some information as just an FYI, or an email FYI, with no expectations from the other person at all, just to keep them, just to kind of cover yourself in letting the other parent know what's going on.
For
If
sure.
if co-parenting is not involved, there's no way to force them to do it. Sometimes even when parenting or divorce programs are court mandated, the co-parent still just might not comply, right? It happens.
Yeah, and to talk to your kids about that, to understand that if one parent maybe has some mental health issues, that they're just not coping right now, and that it could change in the future, that your mom or dad is okay, and we have to understand how they're facing going through this, and to help the children understand that, what's happening, because they don't sometimes understand all that aggravation, all that conflict that's going on. It's not fair. So yeah, always be there for your kids, to help and support them, talk to them, listen to them.
Yeah.
2 ears, listen, talk less, especially teenagers.
Absolutely. Ask more, listen more.
Yeah.
And change the way, I love this one, change the way we ask questions. So for years, everybody but Ryan has been saying, when the kids come home from school, how was school? Linda, what do they say?
Oh, nothing.
Fine. What'd you learn? Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay. So we can't keep asking those questions and expecting different results. So if I said this question, or if I modeled this, so what I might do first is say, let me tell you what went really well in my day today. It went really well. The weather was nice and I was able to get out for a walk at lunchtime. The one thing that I would have done differently today is maybe I would have taken another half an hour to walk a little bit longer, right? So if I model that, then I ask my teen, Linda, what was the favorite part of your day today? Or what's the best thing that happened to you today?
You're going to get a response for sure. Yeah. Hey, this is what happened. It was exciting. Yeah. For sure.
And then I'll say, and what was the one thing that you would have liked to done differently today? I really wish I hadn't picked on Sarah on the playground today.
For sure.
Right? So it's called the self-evaluation questions. So when we get better at asking better questions, then we get more communication. And I'm sure the two parents of the preteens and teens, I think you guys know that a lot of the answers are one-word answers or grunts or, I don't know, IDK, I don't know. Right.
I found with my teens, when I'd come home being separated, when I'd come home, I'd come in the door and I'd see the mess. They weren't doing their homework, watching TV. And I'd say, what's going on? And I'd yell and scream, right? And then one day my son said to me, Mom, why don't you just come home and ask us how our day was? Or why don't you just talk? So the next day, as I entered the front door, I paused and I said, don't look at the mess. Don't yell at them. Just talk. And I went in and ignored everything, the mess, the food, the TV, no homework. And I'd say, hi guys, how are you today? How are things going? Right? And they started talking. This is teens, remember? They started talking and I was listening as they're expressing their day, good or bad, just like you're saying, Julie. And then they'd say, well, I got to go get my homework done, or I'll pick up the whatever, Mom, I'll start dinner. It was amazing that my calm attitude, my being there for my kids, listening to them, made a difference than me complaining, because that's what we tend to do. But there's a lot of anger or frustration because we have all the work. but just to slow it down and really be present with them. Even if they're little ones, Ryan, like 3 and 4 years old, get down to their level and talk to them, you know, on their eye level, saying their name and what's interesting to them, right? That's what's important. And so much easier to parent our kids when we do it that way.
It's amazing to me that such small little changes in what we do makes big changes in what happens in the world around us. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm not hearing any other questions or comments in the chat. The last question that we had was, how do you approach a situation to avoid escalation? And there are some specific things that you want to consider. First of all, if the other person is starting to escalate, you listen without interruption. You don't try to justify, you don't try to change their minds, you don't try to answer their questions, you just listen. When there's a pause, you validate what you've heard and you label the emotion. I can see that you're really upset about this.
And they may say, no, I'm not upset, I'm angry.
Okay,
right?
yeah.
Or disappointed, right?
Right, yeah, I see that. I see you're really angry and disappointed. I hear you, right? So you validate their views and their opinions, and if they start to calm down, which they often do, then you might be able to say, okay, can we talk calmly about this? Or how can I help? Or what would you like to happen now? Okay. And if they're not calm, well, it's never going to change. You're always going to be the way you are. And you know, if it's like that, then you say, you know what? You're still feeling disappointed and hurt and angry. And now I'm starting to get upset. So we probably need to table this and come back, and can we talk about it in an hour? Can we talk about it tomorrow? Can we think about our goals and our options and talk about it when we're both calm? Right? And then go into that whole consider win-win approach, and collaboratively problem-solving techniques are really required to get you to a point where you can calmly talk to someone else without that escalation happening.
Great.
Really, really, it works. It's amazing. As I said, you can't keep yelling at someone that's talking calmly to you.
No, for sure.
It's not possible. Not possible. And sometimes agreeing. There's a really great bullying video that teaches children and teens how to respond to bullies. And one of the best things to do to respond to bullies is agree with the bully. You know, oh, you dress so weirdly. Why are you so ugly? It's like, yeah, I do dress ugly. I do just dress weirdly. And yeah, some days I'm really ugly. And it's okay. It takes the power away. When you agree with someone that's upset and angry, it takes the power away. So it's a really, I don't know if you can find it, but it's something about bullying. It's a really great video of demonstration how to react and respond to bullying.
Good point there, Julie. Really
Okay.
is.
8:30 on the nose, Linda. Yeah, go ahead, Linda.
No, I was just going to say, I think we've covered a lot today. It's probably people have a little bit of overload, brain overload, so many questions, so many new topics or strategies to work with. But we just wanted it to be an introduction of what could change in your life. Look at some of the directions you are working in or not working in, and how to reach out for help.
Absolutely.
So thank you for listening.
Yeah. And thank you, Andrea, very much for pulling us together and allowing us this opportunity. Thanks for those that attended. Thanks to everybody that's on Facebook Live.
Yes.
Enjoy your new journey and the process.
For sure.